going on, Bama fans? Welcome to today's edition of Crimson Tide Today with Zack Aitken. Be sure to follow my X and Instagram at ZAitken7 for the latest news relating to the show and the Alabama Crimson Tide. Let's start the opening drive. So, I want to start today's show by taking a closer look at one of the most important position groups for Alabama heading into the 2026 season. It's the wide receivers. It's been a few years since Alabama fans witnessed the legendary ride out era, and that featured stars like Devontae Smith, Jerry Jeudy, Jalen Waddle, and Henry Ruggs. That group helped redefine college football, and it set the standard for wide receiver play in Tuscaloosa. Now, the question becomes, can this 2026 receiver room bring Alabama back to that level of production and explosiveness? For me, it all starts with rising junior Ryan Coleman Williams. Williams, he has every bit of the talent needed to become an All American this season, and he's already proven he can be a game changer. But this year, his consistency and his leadership will be more important than ever. Whether it's Keelan Russell or Austin Mack under center, Williams is going to be the security blanket and the go to playmaker for Alabama's offense. Another player to watch is Latsier Brooks. Brooks emerged late last season as Alabama's top slot weapon, and he showed the ability to make defenders miss in space. With Jeremy Bernard now off to the NFL, Brooks he's going to be counted on to provide reliability, quickness, and big playability in the middle of the field. Don't overlook Rico Scott either. The former highly touted recruit, he hasn't seen extensive playing time through his first two seasons, but that could change in a big way this year. Scott appears poised for a larger role, and he could become a key contributor as Alabama works to replace Jeremy Bernard's production. But then there's also the size factor. Derek Meadows and Sadarian Morgan, they bring something unique to this receiver room. Meadows stands 6'5" and weighs in at 215 pounds, while Morgan checks in at 6'4" and 223 pounds. These are the type of receivers that Alabama's coaching staff they love. Meadows' combination of size and athleticism was a major reason the Tide worked so hard to flip him from LSU during his recruitment. And as for Morgan, the Alabama native and former five-star prospect, he's been generating plenty of excitement. The Benjamin Russell High School product turned heads during A-Day. He hauled in 3 catches for 75 yards, including a touchdown from Keelan Russell. His blend of strength, size, and playmaking ability, it makes him one of the most intriguing young players on the roster. And we also can't forget about transfer Nolan Rogers. The former NC State receiver, he's bringing proven production with him from Raleigh, and he quickly became one of the biggest stories during spring practice. Unfortunately, Rogers suffered a lower body injury during the A-Day game and is expected to miss the start of the season. However, Kalen DeBoer, he has expressed optimism that Rogers could return later this year and provide a major boost down the stretch. If these receivers can consistently stretch the field and create explosive plays, they're going to open up the running game, which will help Alabama create a balanced offensive attack that has traditionally fuels Alabama's championship runs. The potential is certainly there. Now it's all about turning that potential into production on Saturdays this fall. Who do you guys think will be the biggest breakout receiver in 2026? Drop your answer down in the comments. Moving on, I wanted to talk about something really cool that happened late last week. Nike announced last week that 7 more Alabama football players have officially joined the Nike football family, and that's giving the Crimson Tide a total of 8 current players signed with the global brand. The newest additions include quarterback Keelan Russell, linebacker Yonze Pierre, defensive backs Bray Hubbard, Xavier Brown, and Dejon Lee, along with freshman standouts Sadarian Morgan and E.J. Crowell. These guys, they're going to be joining wide receiver Ryan Coleman Williams, who signed with Nike last offseason, and he still remains with the brand. Now, what makes this really cool and impressive is the caliber of players that are involved. Pierre, Hubbard, and Brown, and Lee, they're all returning starters on Alabama's defense, and they're expected to be key pieces on K. Womack's unit this season. On offense, Keelan Russell is currently battling for the starting quarterback job against Austin Mack, and he's one of the most talked about young players in the country. And I'll be honest, my initial reaction seeing Russell's name was backup quarterbacks, they don't get NIL deals, but we'll see how the quarterback battle shapes up later in the fall. Then you have freshmen Sadarian Morgan and E.J. Crowell, two of the highly touted recruits who haven't even played a snap yet in college, but they're already generating enough buzz to attract one of the biggest brands in all of sports. Another interesting detail is the Alabama connection. 4 of Alabama's Nike athletes are in state products, guys like Yonze Pierre, Sadarian Morgan, E.J. Crowell, and Ryan Coleman Williams. That's a great sign for the program's ability to identify and develop elite talent right in its own backyard. This wasn't a random selection process either. 7 of these players, they were part of a 12-player group that Alabama sent to Nike's world headquarters in Beaverton, Oregon back in May. And according to Alabama's Director of Professional Sports Services, Joe Hawley, the players spent 3 days learning about professional development, branding, marketing, and sports science research. Apparently, the guys ate it up. They loved the experience, and clearly Nike liked what they saw too. While it's also notable that Alabama just isn't making noise with its current players, they also have some buzz with their recruiting class. Five-star quarterback Elijah Haven, he's also signed a deal with Nike's NIL roster, and that just shows the Crimson Tide's influence. It extends well into the future with recruiting. Looking at the bigger picture, Alabama is only one of 14 college programs with at least one Nike NIL athlete. Schools like Georgia, Ohio State, Texas, LSU, Oregon, and Auburn, they're all on the list as well. But here's the cool stat. Alabama's now has 8 Nike athletes, and that's second most in the country. The only program ahead of Alabama is LSU with 11. Whether you're talking about recruiting, player development, branding, or NIL opportunities, Alabama continues to position itself among the elite programs in college football. The results on the field are always going to matter most, but major announcements like this show that the Crimson Tide remain a major player in every aspect of modern college football and the landscape as a whole. Let me know what you guys think in the comments. Which of these Nike athletes are you most excited about this season? And do you guys think Keelan Russell has a really good shot at winning the Alabama starting job at quarterback? So moving on, I wanted to break down the ESPN put out some new data, and it has Alabama fans talking because according to ESPN, the Crimson Tide enters the 2026 season with the third easiest schedule in the SEC. Now, before everyone starts celebrating and penciling Alabama into the college football playoff, there's important context that we need to discuss with this ranking. According to ESPN FPI, Alabama's schedule ranks as 15th hardest in the entire country. That sounds pretty tough, but here's the crazy part. 13 of the 14 schedules ranked tougher than Alabama, they're in the SEC. But that's just life in the SEC. The only conference teams that have easier schedules than Alabama are Vanderbilt, which is ranked 18th, and Georgia, which is ranked 20th. So while Alabama technically has one of the more favorable paths to the conference, we're still talking about a schedule that's considered top 15 nationally in difficulty. Looking at this slate, there are some major tests. At home, the Tide hosts Florida State, South Carolina, Georgia, and Texas A&M, as well as the Iron Bowl. That means Bryant-Denny Stadium, it will once again be home to several massive home games that's going to have playoff implications. The Georgia matchup immediately jumps off the page. Anytime Alabama and Georgia meet, you're looking at 2 of the premier programs in all of college football. ESPN currently ranks Georgia 5th in its FPI ranking, and it has Alabama at 8th. There's also the Texas A&M Aggies, which enters the season 11th by FPI, and it continues to recruit at a high level. I've already told y'all that I think this game could be the hardest game on the schedule. South Carolina also comes to Tuscaloosa, and that's after becoming one of the more respected programs in the SEC under Shane Beamer. On the road, Alabama is going to travel to Kentucky, Mississippi State, Tennessee, LSU, and Vanderbilt. The Tennessee and LSU trips, they stand out as the toughest road games on the schedule. Even though Alabama has winning records as the visitor, winning in Knoxville and Baton Rouge, it's never easy, and regardless of the preseason rankings, you can throw that out. But here's the most important takeaway. We've seen this story before. Last year, ESPN projected Alabama to have only the 10th hardest schedule in the SEC entering the season. By the time the year ended, Alabama actually had the toughest schedule in the conference and the second hardest schedule in the nation. In other words, these preseason rankings are interesting, but they're far from final. Teams improve, teams collapse, injuries happen, unexpected contenders emerge. What looks like a manageable schedule in July, it can become a gauntlet by November. The good news for Alabama is that the path is there. If the Tide can settle the quarterback competition, continue developing under Kalen DeBoer, and take care of business at home, this is a schedule that certainly provides an opportunity to compete for an SEC championship and a spot in the college football playoff. But in this conference, there's not going to be any shortcuts. A favorable SEC schedule is still one of the toughest schedules in America. So let me know what you guys think in the comments. Is Alabama's schedule being overrated or underrated? Wrapping up today's show, we're going to continue our player preview series, and we're going to put a bow on doing a preview on one of the most intriguing players on Alabama's roster heading into the 2026 season. That's freshman running back E.J. Farwell. Here's the reason why Alabama fans should be asking this question. Can EJ Crowell be the next great Alabama running back? When you look at his resume, it's easy to understand the hype. Crowell, he arrived in Tuscaloosa as a unanimous five-star prospect, and he was the top player in the state of Alabama and one of the highest rating running backs in the country. He reclassified from the 2027 class to accelerate his path to college football, and he still finished as one of the nation's elite prospects. At Jackson High School, Crowell put up video game numbers. As a junior, he rushed for over 2,600 yards and 35 touchdowns while setting Alabama State rushing records. Before that, he posted nearly 2,000 receiving yards and 31 touchdowns as a sophomore. He was named Alabama's Mr. Football, and he established himself as one of the most decorated high school players in the state. But high school players are one thing. High school highlights, that's only one component. The real question is whether success translates to the SEC. The good news for Alabama fans is that everything we've heard out of Tuscaloosa suggests EJ Crowell, he's already making an impression. Veteran running back Daniel Hill, he's already praising Crowell's work ethic earlier this year, saying that the freshman is constantly looking for ways to improve and he's approaching the game like a veteran. That's exactly what coaches want to hear from a young player entering one of the most competitive running back rooms in the whole country. Even Alabama head coach Kalen DeBoer, he also hinted that the offensive system allows talented freshmen to earn playing time quickly if they're ready. While Corral, he missed some portions of spring practice because of a soft tissue injury, the coaching staff has remained extremely optimistic about his future. And when you watch his film, you can see why. Crowell, he isn't just a power back. He's got the size at nearly 220 pounds, but he also has burst, balance, and the ability to make defenders miss in space. Recruiting analysts and fans alike have always pointed to this combination of physicality and explosiveness as the reason he can earn snaps much sooner than expected. But we also have to be a little bit realistic. Alabama has talented backs already on the roster, and earning true carries as a freshman in the SEC is never easy. But Corral, he doesn't need to be RB1 on day one. If he can stay healthy during fall camp, learn the protections, and continue developing in Ryan Grubb's offense, there's a legitimate path for him to become a major contributor this season. In fact, many around the program believe he has all of the talent to become the face of Alabama's rushing attack in the near future. So the expectations are high. The recruiting rankings are elite. Now the spotlight's going to be turning to Saturdays. Will EJ Crowell be the next Alabama running back? We're going to find out very soon. So guys, that's going to do it for today's edition of Crimson Tide Today. As always, I thank you guys so much for your continued support of the show. Until next time, roll Tide.